Hello, welcome to this next tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to be having a look at Texel Density. Now Texel Density is a measurement unit, typically measured in pixels per centimetres or pixel per metre, maybe per inch per foot, depending upon where you are in the world, and it allows us to set a consistency in the assets of our world, a texture consistency. So for example, in this Cyberpunk 2077, a game I happen to be playing at the moment, not windowed like this, I'm not a madman, I need to be able to walk up to just about everything in this scene and have a look at it. So these are going to need these barrels, for example, are going to need a pretty high texel density. And this floor also is going to need a fairly high texel density, and this dumpster, and just about everything you have a look at. Things that you can't walk up to, like this massive building in the background, can be a lower texel density because it's not going to break the magic, and that's the point. If these barrels had a significantly different texel density to this floor, then there would be a disconnect. They wouldn't look like they belong to the same world. So it would kind of break your magic. With first-person games, it's like this. With third-person, you're naturally a bit further away from the world, so you can bring your density down a little lower. If you're doing a still, for example, the things that are close to the camera you want as a high texel density. The further from the camera it gets, the lower you can go, as long as everything looks consistent, of course. And with that then, just with that little demonstration, I hope that makes sense, but we're going to go a bit deeper into texel density and how to use it and how to apply it in the next few sections of the video. So I shall talk to you then. Okay, so we're in Blender now. And I've got my three masterfully crafted cubes here. They're all identical in terms of UVs. If we go and have a look in the UV room, where am I? There we go. Need to go into edit mode and select everything. And of course, I'm not in the UV room. I'm there. There we go. So we've got a standard cross type thing here, and if I come out of editing mode and go and have a look at another one, and there we go, it's the same, and should be the same for this one as well. So the only real difference between them is their sizes. And why is that an issue? Well, if I pop a texture on here, we'll see. So these have all got the same material on, and I'm just going to change the attribute on base color to a checker texture. There we go. So now we can see that they're all identical, but these blocks, if you like, the squares on there, are all different sizes, and that indicates that the texel density across each of these is different. So why would that be bad? Well, again, if I put them next to each other, if I take them off into substance and texture them, I'm not going to get a consistency across them. My tiny little prop over here is going to be really kind of a high level, high texel density. This one's going to be medium, this one's going to be low, which means this one's going to be really blurry and strange. This one's going to be probably okay, but this one will be super detailed. And if you put them next to each other, they're not going to look right. Okay, so how do we change that? So I'm in Blender. So in Blender, I need a tool to do that because it doesn't have a native thing for texel density. So for that, I'm using Texel Density Checker 3. I'll pop a link down below, and let's have a look back here. Yeah, once you've installed it, you'll see you get this Texel Density tab here in the UV editor when you're in edit mode. So we can measure the texel densities in here. So this one, if I hit calculate, I've got a 2048 map on it. I don't need 2048, let's go 512. If I click calculate on that one, so you'll get a 2.56 pixels per centimetre. And if I now switch over to my medium one and calculate, I get half, because it's about, you know, double the size. So it's 1.28 pixels per centimetre. And whoops, if I go to my next cube and hit calculate, I get 0.64. So, you know, that just shows the different actual densities between them. So that's the issue. I want to make them all, so each square on this texture is the same size. So we'll have a look at how to use this Texel Density checker in Blender in the next video, and I will talk to you then. Okay, so I want to make these all consistent. I want to make the squares on them all the same, and I'm not going to worry about anything else except that for the moment. So I'm going to start with my biggest object and then go down. If I start with my smallest and move up, this will not work because for the medium and the large cube, the image will go out of the 0 to 1 space. Okay, so let me find this. Okay, so my texel density on this big one is 0.64 centimeters. Sorry, pixels per centimeter. So I want to apply that texel density to each of our other objects. So if I press tab to come out of edit mode, and I'll select my medium cube and get tab to go back, just going to select everything. And then down here, we've got a set method. I'm going to select the 0.64 pixels per centimeter option, and that will instantly transform it to, you know, to be correct. The checker isn't necessarily going to do that because I believe it's kind of procedural or such like, so it's not actually going to show up in there. It's going to remain the same, so don't worry about that. As long as your measured density is 0.64 pixels per centimeter, that's correct. Let me go and do that for the smaller one as well. And let's go to edit mode. I've got everything selected on 0.64. So if I click 0.64, you'll see then that that changes too. So each of these now has the same pixel, the same density. I think I'll probably demonstrate that better without using the checker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new map. Let's make it 1024. Well, actually, let's make it 512 because that is what I've used in my size here. So I want a UV grid. So then I'll click OK. So now in my material, I need to switch this over from checker to image texture, and then I can select my image texture from here. It's this untitled one. There we go. Now they're all identical. We can see that each of the boxes on our map here, or on our models, they're all the same size. So that's essentially how to get an equal texel density across different models. But that's the very basics of it. When you have a more complex scene, you might have some decisions to make. So I've made a couple of little bits and bobs, and what we're going to do is go through the process of setting the texel density on those things, but making a bit more of an educated, I'll take a bit more of an educated approach. Okay, so I'll talk to you then. Okay, a little bit of a more practical thing here. I've got some props which I want to work on. So they're all going to be in the same scene. Some may be more distant than others, but they're generally different scales, and we need to kind of unify our texel settings. So you can see I've got this mug here, and all of my other props have got this colourful checker on, and I just thought I'd leave this one and show you how I set it up. So with the mug selected, I'm just going to click under materials here. I'm going to click new, and we'll call it mug. And then next to base color on this little yellow dot, I'm going to click there and select image texture. And now, pretending I haven't already made one, I'm going to click new. I'll call it checker 2 because I've already got a checker. And then under the generated type, I'm going to go to color grid and OK. And there we go. Now I've got a brand new checker texture on there. Now in reality, I'm using this one for everything else, but it's made in exactly the same way. I just wanted to show you how to do it. Right, so we've got all these objects and we're going to have a bit of a challenge making these all the same texel density. So I have a vision, for this image. It's going to be still, or I'm anticipating it being still, not like for a game or for anything like that. So I want some really high resolution, but I don't necessarily need the same resolution on everything, because my general vision is this would be like a tavern scene. I would have sort of benches and tables and chairs and such like arranged around in the center, but then these would be much further off in the background. So I'm just going to move those away to demonstrate that they're not going to be in the same kind of area. So what do we do? Well, in the next part, what we're going to do is have a look at our different pieces in the foreground and establish a sensible texel density for them. So I will talk to you in a few moments. Okay, so now that we're ready to do this, we can have a look. So I'm going to work on these three pieces first. So if I just do Shift H, there we go. Oh, that's hidden me light. Now I can't see anything. There we go. So we can see that these are all different. This is probably the highest. This big bench is big table is the lowest, and then the bench is sort of somewhere in between. But what we need to do is make those the same. Because this is our biggest object, it's probably my limiter. I can't make this any more dense. It is what it is. So if I select this and press tab to go into edit mode and A to select everything, and calculate my texel density on this texel density rollout on our little plugin, we'll see that density comes to 6.5. If I count to set value, that will come down to here, set TD, and now I can apply that to other objects. So I'm going to tab out, tab, and then select another object, and tab, select A for everything, and then set the texel density. And that's then going to rescale my islands so that it's the same texel density as the table. And you should see now that these numbers and letters and boxes are all of a similar size. Well, they should be the same size. Right, so that's that one. So let's tab out and then go and select our little stool, and then tab and A to select everything. And then I'm going to set the texel density again, but obviously it's scaled it down. And that's the issue now, because we've got two maps here which have got a lot of empty space in them, and that's inefficient. What we want is to have as little wasted space as is humanly possible. So what I'm going to do is to combine these two maps together. So first of all, on this little stool, I'm just going to press G in the UV room, or in the UV window. I'm just going to move that off into a quadrant. Then you press tab and select the bench and do the same. So tab again, and then I'm going to press G and move that into the opposite. And then press tab, I'm going to select both with shift click, then tab, and I'm just going to move some stuff around if it's overlapping. So let me select over here. If I select all of this little bench thing, stool thing, sorry, Alt Z to go into transparent mode. There we go. I'm just going to move that out of the way. There we go. So they're not overlapping. So now I have one map with some wasted space in it, instead of two maps with more wasted space in them. Okay, so that's those bits. Let me just press Tab to come out of that, and Alt. There we go. Just Tab rather for that bit. So now we're going to have a look at the detailed pieces, and we'll do that in the next little section. Okay, so let's have a look at the other ones. So let me do Alt H, I'm in edit mode or object mode. There we go. And we've got our two little cups here, or rather cup and a lamp. So let me just have a look at this one. So it's edit mode with Tab and A to select, and then I'm going to set my texture density. Now this is taking a ridiculously small area up. Now we don't have to combine things together like we did with the bench and the stool. We can actually just change the texture size. So this is a what this would look like on a 2048 map. If I take that to a 512 map and then set set my Texel density, then I will get much less wasted space, and I'm just using a 512 map. You know, that's going to be lighter on whatever render engine I happen to be using. So let's do the same for the lamp. This one may be slightly trickier. So Tab and A and 512 map. Set. There we go. No, it's fine. So they're both fitting on 512 maps. So two 512 maps is going to be less than one 1K map. You know, and that's about the options we have there. So, you know, I've basically got what? Let me press edit so I know what I'm doing. I've got one map for these two and one map for this. So that's going to be two 2048 maps, and I've got two 512 maps. And if I zoom in, yeah, we're not necessarily seeing this as particularly visually at the moment, because this is a kind of procedurally generated, so it's scaling regardless of the Texel density size. So it's not going to show up properly, but we'll have a look in a moment or two by applying some different images in. Okay, so next then we'll have a look at these distance ones, which uses a bit of, how can I put it, thumb in the air kind of thinking. So I'll go through the sort of things I think about when I'm doing that. So I'll talk to you then. Okay, so I could set these to the same density as these foreground objects. So let me grab that one and hit Tab and A to select everything, and I've still got my value in here, so I could set that. I've still got it on a 512 map, so let's make it a 2048 map, and there we go. So that's that, except for excuse me, these are much further away and do not need to be detailed. You know, especially if I'm going to use depth of field or something, it's going to blur out anyway. It just needs to be optimized a little. So what I'm thinking is that if I make this 3.25 and make my texture size 1024 and set my texel density, you'll see it didn't really change. All that's changed is the fact that I'm using a 1024 map instead of a 2048 map. So it's not going to be as detailed, but because it's not as close to the camera, it doesn't need to be. So I can save some memory there. And since the 1024 map is like a quarter of a 2048 map, that's a bit of a win. So if I then select my other crate here and hit Tab and select A for all. Got 1024, 3.25, and if I set my texel density, you'll see that it comes down a little, but it's consistent with the object next to it, and you know, that should be good. Okay, so I've got a few kind of admin tasks to do in this to finish it off, and we'll have a go through those next, and we might even get some textures on here to, you know, see what's going on. Okay, so I'll talk to you then. Okay, so my little bit of admin is communicating to the texture artist what I've done, and not necessarily you know, what the texel density is, but the size of each map that I've done. So if I just hit tab to come out of that, there we go. So this object is a crate, and it is 1024, and then the barrel similarly, whoops, narrow, I obviously typed that wrong, that will also be 1024, and then this is a 2048, and this is also a 2048. See, it's got the same texture on it, so they're on the same map essentially. Okay, so this is also 2048. Oh, this has got the wrong thing on it. Okay, well, let me change this to bench. So let me delete that, add a new one, call it bench, and that will be 2048, and also want that one on there, so delete, and then I want to select from my existing list, and I want bench. Where's bench gone? There it is. This one also, let me delete that. Oh, so I keep it in plus instead of delete. There we go, that's there. And now I can pop that checker back on just to make it nice and consistent. So image texture and checker, there we go. Okay, so this is on bench, this is also on bench, this is table, that's good. And these ones, so it will be lamp, but this is a 512. And this is my mug, and it's also a 512. So if I weren't texturing this, I'm going to, but if I weren't, the person that I've sent it to now knows what size of textures that I want to want to use to keep the texel density nice and coherent. Okay, so that's that. That's the basic texel density process. I'll probably do a speeded up texture process after this section. You're welcome to skip it if you wish, but if you stick to the end, you should see then my final result. So I shall talk to you in another tutorial.